Welcome back, everybody. This is going to be the last video in the Skullclamp series. We have wrapped this game up. I had to take a unexpected trip, and I was not able to record the last few turns. So this video is going to cover turns 58 to 64. And as you can see, the game went pretty much exactly as we had predicted in the videos leading up to this. There were a lot of factors that contributed to that. We covered that in all the videos, and we're going to try to recap all of that in a nice closeout for this series. We're going to go through all the objectives, all the graphs, and I'm going to talk through some high-level successes and some misses that we experienced throughout the playthrough. And then I'm going to cover one of the things my opponent asked me about was my strategy when it comes to magics. And I think that magic is really the reason to play this game, so it's kind of, you know, how deep do you want to go? It's such a deep magic system with so much interdependency of site searching, gem income, access to magic paths, ability to craft certain items, your pretender design, your scales, all of that good stuff. So we're going to kind of get into that at a really high level. But as you can see, we did win the game. And if you notice, this is turn 54. I had predicted that I was going to win the game on turn 60, and I was absolutely on track to do that. I made an egregious new player mistake. It's not even a new player mistake. It's a cognitive fatigue mistake because I knew exactly what I was supposed to do. I just didn't do it. In the process of recording all these videos and playing the late game, there's just so much cognitive fatigue of ensuring that you have all the right items on individual mages, and I'll cover that in a second. But for now, let's do a quick overview. We took Vocan. I think that was probably the biggest turn of the game, was taking Vocan, and then immediately using Akashic Knowledge to site search it and find just incredible sites on on this location, as well as getting Throne of Fire, which gave our blessed troops an additional attack +3. This was such a huge win. That was a really fun turn for me, and just seeing that battle resolve, despite all the minor missteps, like we still took the province and did it pretty efficiently. So that was fun. Then next up, as we progress through the game, I think the last video left off, we were marching armies south in Muria, and if you were watching any of those previous videos, I had said that this was going to become the most important strategic area of the map. Ironically, I had spent a large portion of my time a little too over-indexed on this portion of the map up here in the north by Jome and trying to fight within for territory. And then at some point I realized I'd already taken and, plopped down a strategic fortress in Jome. Why was I, quibbling with Ind, who was already at war with Ermor and already at war with Abyssia? So I had no reason to try to push any further into here. At some point I realized that and just kind of backed off my troops and just focused on holding Jome and then marching troops south from Murias to Anglavania, Blue Moss Forest. I didn't ever bother to take Konberg, even though this, I'm sure is a very high income province. Yeah, this is a very high income province. Look at that. Jeez. Wow, that's a lot of money. That's as much as someone's capital. So yeah, this had a massive income, which would have been nice. But at this point in the game, we don't care. We don't care. Because we took Larian Swamps on turn 60 as I projected. So I was careful to kind of do the math of like, okay, if I move my Storm Demons here, I can get some line troops into Larian Swamps. And what ended up happening was I did the math and I was like, okay, on turn 60, on turn 59, I'm going to move in to Larian Swamps, and I'm going to move into Monster Depths with my Sacreds and my Storm Demon army to ensure that I take those provinces, and then I'm going to cap the throne on those same turns. Actually, I think I took Monster's Depth on turn 58, and that's important because I was trying to back into, if I took the province on turn 59 in Larian Swamps, I need my prophet to be in Larian Swamps, and I need my god to be in Monster's Depth. And you'll notice I didn't actually take Monster's Depth until turn 64. And the reason for that is because my god drowned. I actually forgot to equip an Azure Amulet on my god. I cast Teleport from Sodorth to Monster's Depth to make him, although he's Dominion 4 God and immobile, he can still teleport. So I teleported him to Monster's Depth and he immediately drowned. So I was in a situation on turn 59 where I'm like, okay, this is it. I am, all set up to win the game. And I logged in and I saw, shit, I could cap Larian Swamps with my Prophet, but my god had died. So then after that, I did a couple things. We'll cover all of that in just a second. But before we do that, let's look at the overall graphs of the game. To close the game out, all I ended up doing was ensuring that I could get my Prophet from Larian Swamps to Monster's Depth as quickly as possible. And as you can see, oh wait, no, that's not. Yeah, as you can see, I gave my Prophet a Azure Amulet, and I just walked him up here to cap this while I waited for my god to be resummoned. And he came back pretty quickly, but it wasn't a factor. It was quicker to just walk my Prophet up north and hold this position. As you can see, I pretty well established a position here with 3 red seconds and a bunch of monsters and summons. So that closed the game out, and it didn't really affect us because, as I said, Abyssia was just too over-indexed on fighting multiple AIs. You can see Ermor had taken a lot of the land that Abyssia had fought Pangea for at the start of the game. This is why you don't start multiple wars with AIs. Even against normal AIs, if you end up in a situation where you are fighting multiple wars, you end up getting double teamed, and you just can't produce enough units, especially early on in the game. You just cannot produce enough units to sustain the losses that you will take, even if you're mostly winning those fights. So this was not a factor to me. In fact, I'm surprised that Ermor overran him as much as he did. Abyssia, I was trying to convey to the other player, hey, priests are super critical against fighting Ermor. There's a variety of different magic spells that you can use that work well against Ermor. Ermor, I think, is predominantly a cold scales nation. I don't know how the AI was set up. Actually, maybe we can look at their bless. Undead leadership. Fire. Oh yeah, they had fire resistance. Interesting. And withering weapons. Wow, that's scary. Yikes. I don't know a lot about playing Ermor. I've just played against it a lot. Anyways, let's take a look at the graphs. I think my opponent had some factors working against them that just kind of made this a little bit more of a easy game for me. I could kind of turtle in the corner, lose my war against Machaca, and then eventually just play the objective and win the game. So, all right, let's look at the graphs. Provinces. You can see Abyssia, kind of where their war started with Ermor. Ermor, kind of kicked it off right here, started taking provinces from Abyssia. They were also warring with Ind and Pangea, but you can see Abyssia won the war against Pangea right here. I think that was roughly turn 55. My provinces started to dip because at some point I just gave up on my war with Machaca. I don't think it was a mistake the way that I played it, because I did the calculation. I was like, I don't really care if Machaca marches north, and I had plenty of units here. A lot of I was experimenting with foul spawn because there's some dominions enhanced. There's some dominions enhanced spells that and items that help with foul spawn summoning, or crossbreeding. That's what it is. And I wanted to test it out, see if I could make it good. I never got to see whether it was or not it was good. But yeah, anyways, with Machaca, it didn't really matter, what they did. I knew that I was going to lose Moreni. I was just trying to, create a stalemate situation as much as I could, bog them down. The scary thing would have been if they had marched past High Mill straight north into Vokan. Because if I couldn't hold Vokan, I would have been in a really bad situation. Maybe I could have flown home with all my Storm Demons and fought it off, but I really didn't want to do that. I wanted to just like really protect Larian Swamps and win the game that way. So, anyways, back to the graphs. Those provinces, forts didn't really change for a long time. I like actually the only reason I had any fort production in the end is because of 3 red seconds, which is one of the best blood spells in the game. Like it's a reason enough alone to play blood magic. Um, Income, this is a really interesting graph, and when I looked at this, I called this out in one of the videos, but I saw this, there was a turn where I saw this split, and I specifically said, okay, this is where I'm going to win the game, because I'm going to pop off. My provinces are going to continue to grow in value. I'm going to hold my territories. I'm going to invest in infrastructure. I'm going to put up citadels with 3 red seconds that give me administrative bonuses. And sure enough, like you can see this was the turn where the split happened. And Abyssia did a really good job. I think this is Abyssia, right? Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so close. They did a pretty good job despite all their, hardships of their start in keeping up with income. I wonder what their scales were. I don't have any visibility into that. But this split really happened, and that was the point at which I was like, okay, I'm on the victory march at this point. Um, Gem income. Now, okay, let's see. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. So provinces versus income, we covered that. Research versus gem income. This is what I wanted to talk about. So when I looked at the final graphs, I think the thing that stood out to me in the conversation I had with my friend was you need to like when I saw this, I'm like, okay, like wow, Abyssia did a great job of keeping up in gem income, and I was pretty blown away by that because I felt like I did a really good job of site searching early. Let me see what my total gem income was. I mean, 7 fire gems a turn, 5 air gems, 3 water gems. We had 12 earth gems a turn, 12 astral gems a turn. We had such a massive bank of gems by the end of the game. Like we could do kind of whatever. We had about 150 blood slaves per turn income, which actually wasn't as good as I was hoping to get. But either way, I thought our gem income was very good, and we had Mother Oaks the whole game. There was no one attempting to dispel that. So I was surprised, honestly, to see how well Abyssia did in keeping up with gem income. I don't know how they did that, but either way, the point that I'm trying to make here is this gem income should be considered in relation to the research. And when I saw the research graph, I was genuinely shocked. The fact that I was this far out in terms of gem or research with the gem income being what it is, I think this was one of the biggest, just true mechanical mistakes that my human opponent made. Because I guess you could go for a very narrow strategy of like, okay, I'm going to spend all of my gem income on summons, and that's just what I'm going to do. Or I'm going to forge a handful of really high impact items that are really specific to doing a specific strategy. But either way, you can't do that without a certain amount of baseline research to get to most, like minimally, a level 5 magic path and or magic school. And I think that was a big learning or lesson I was trying to convey to my friend was like, hey, you gotta do more in terms of mage research. Even if you're not just focused on magic, like this is insane. Like the fact that Machaka had more research than he did is pretty incredible. Um, because you want something to spend down these gems on. Um, I haven't had a chance to debrief with him. I do want to ask him kind of what he was spending his gems on. So that will kind of be left unknown forever, but that was a big takeaway from me in looking at the graphs. Research Dominion. Dominion was another big one that stood out to me, and my Dominion, I think, really helped me win this game. Army size, I don't really care about army size. I don't think this is a useful graph at all. You can see Ermor's way out in front, but that's because they're undead. I think this just goes off a raw size of number of units. It's number of units times size of unit. My army size went way up because I was started doing crossbreeding. You can see that like right here just shoots up. Had zero impact on the game. And then ascension points. This should have gone up to the victory on turn 60. So that's all the graphs. We talked about the wars. I already talked about Ind and Machaca. Ironically, I didn't win a single war this game. And I think that speaks volumes to like the I don't know, RNG of the map generation. I didn't have to win a war. I wanted war by I don't know, by a de facto war by holding down Machaca's capital for so long. And then once they, I was just a little too greedy in sieging down Machaca. I didn't have enough units, and they had spent their gem income just conjuring a bunch of units to tar pit me in the center of their capital. So that was a big mistake, but it didn't actually cost me the game because I was able to contain them so well. So I technically won that war, I guess, but ultimately I made the decision. It was like, okay, all they can do now is just kind of march up through here and take High Mill, which is exactly what they did. And then, as I said already, Ind was just not I didn't need to take this territory. I mean, this is already in their cap circle, so it was already greedy trying to take Gentle Plains. So yeah, let's get into that. So let's look at wins. Binding of Storm Demons. That was a crazy spell. This is a Dominion's enhanced spell. Excuse me, it's called Gathering of Storm Demons, and the ability to summon 5 total Storm Demons at a cost 20 per that's a very, very efficient spell. It does require the Akalar. You put up the Akalar for 50 Blood Slaves, and then you cast it. But ultimately, it gives you a path to mass recruit Storm Demons without getting to Infernal Tempest, which is a level 9. This is the traditional vanilla version of the spell. So for 35 Blood Slaves, you summon 12 Storm Demons a turn, and you have to have Blood 5, which is very high. This is really hard to achieve. You got to invest in quite a few boosters to get there. The second thing I would say was a big win was site searching, and I already talked about that. So if you're a new player, getting a mage out early to start site searching, high value provinces being swamps, forests, plains if you're looking for astral pearls, water, provinces if you're looking for water, gems, that sort of thing. The third thing that I thought was a big win was our blood economy. We did a really good job setting up blood economies here. We did 4 Sorginas with Sanguine Dowsing Rods, and then we use Call of the Wind, which is a very common tactic. I don't think anyone who's played the game for a long time will be shocked to see that, but Call of the Wind is a very cost-effective spell. The reason we like Call of the Wind for patrolling is because they're animals. They don't cost anything for upkeep, and you can see that if you look at your income. We had 561 Blackhawks at a cost of 0, which is great. You compare that to something like Sorginas, where we had 71 total mages by the end of the game. That was costing us 1,200 gold per turn. The last thing I want to call out was Construction 7. We'll go through some of the magics here in a second, but yeah, we'll go through the magics here in a second. Let's talk about the misses. Couple things. I was experimenting with Transfiguration to reduce the cost of Acre Belts. I had this. Which one was it? Mother Oak, Horseville, Twisting Woods. So I had this alteration bonus magic site, and I was trying to make use of that. It just transformation. Acrobelts are such good mages for what they are, and they have such accessible boosters and so many different things that they can do on their turn. It's really just not worth it to roll the dice and hope for, a good monster roll when you go through transformation or transfiguration. This is a spell that converts your mage into a random monster or animal, and the point of doing that is that you save on the income from those acrobelts. So you can see, let's see, where's acrobelts here? We had 13 acrobelts at a cost of 390 by the end of the game. But you have things like Enchanted Boar cost 0. It's the same concept as Call of the Wind. If you convert your mages to animals, they no longer cost upkeep. Um, but there's trade-offs. There's always trade-offs. So that was not good. Um, the second thing I wanted to call out is some specifics about why it was a mistake going north with so many sacreds. Ind had a bless that was, or a spell that was very punitive. It was like this anti-sacred spell. It was some death magic spell where it was rapidly decaying and aging one of my sacred units. And so every fight I had with Ind, if they had a handful of sacreds or mages, they were killing off 5 to 6 sacreds per turn. That was negating an entire turn of recruitment out of my capital, and it was a forward deployed sacred. So, fighting in hindsight was just, there was no reason to. Once I took Jome and pushed them out of Scraw Point, Black Marsh, I had won the war. I did not need the income from Gentle Plains, which was actually flooded. I did not need to recruit the Jade Maidens or the Jade Sorceresses from Rymir. So, I don't know. I guess the lesson there is just don't over-index on like taking more territory that doesn't serve you to actually win the game. If we really needed the income, sure, like let's fight for that territory. Let's do it in an intelligent way. But at this point, we had already taken this entire corner, and we were really just focused on how do we get south of High Mill? How do we should have focused on just finishing out this territory and getting taking the sea provinces earlier. But okay, so that's Anti-Sacred Ind. The Menchaca siege we already went over. I went south with Menchaca, and I was sitting on their parked on their capital for 20, 30 turns. And I finally just sieged it down, thinking I would just take it. And instead I just totally wiped, lost all my sacreds. And from that point on, Menchaca was just, completely back in the game. We already talked about the Drown God, but if you are teleporting to a province, especially sea provinces, make sure to double check that you have all the items equipped for that unit, especially if you plan to have a mage fight. Like, you need your Ring of Returnings, you need your Azure Amulets, or your vanilla version being Sea King's Goblet, or there's a book of water breathing. You need your Sacred Blesses, your Holy Waters for your Blesses. Don't, if you're gonna cast Teleport, double check that you have all the items that you need, because you won't have access to a lab most likely where you're going. So, blood boosters. I over-indexed on blood boosters a little bit. I did this because I was using them to cast the Gathering of Storm Demons. I don't think it was a total miss, but I think that there was a more cost-effective way to get all of my Sorginas to Blood 3, which is what the requirement to cast it. So if I look at, let's see, and it was Blood Harvest. This is what I should have done. This was the miss. I spent, let's see, I created probably 15 Blood Thorns, which they're a cost of 15 Blood Slaves, so that's 225 total Blood Slaves. And instead, all I needed to do was cast this. Friendly provinces gain growth and turmoil scales, faster increase in spring, blood mages gain +1 blood, and a chance of tax boost. So this not only would have given me the additional blood 3, or the blood path, it would have also given me a pretty substantial income bump and growth over time. I would have been able to cast this probably around like turn 45, uh, maybe earlier. So yeah, that would have been the right thing to do is use this global enchantment. Nobody was contesting me for global enchantments. Where are the global enchants? Yeah, I had Mother Oak and Blood Vortex. There was no one competing for it, and that you know. So, anyways, Blood Boosters, no Turbo Communions. I made Turbo Communions, and I never used them. I had two guys up here, Turbo 1. Actually, I called them Turbo 1, Turbo 2. I just never used it. Turbo Communions is the concept of giving bigger mages with better paths, regeneration, and reinvigoration, so that you can use lesser mages to cast a large volume of spells. So basically, with Pyrene, you use two Acrobelts and a handful of Sorginas to create a Blood Sabbath that allows the Sorginas to just come out blasting. All right, I wanted to spend some time. Actually, we'll leave these expanded. I wanted to call out some specific magics. Magic paths, I think, is the most daunting part of this game, and so knowing like what you can do with magic is the most interesting thing about the game to me. Let's talk about 3 red seconds for a second. Anyone who's played this game knows this spell, but for new players, once you get deep into the blood magic tree, you have access to some of the most powerful spells in the game. And 3 red seconds is possibly one of the most powerful spells in the game. What this does is Blood 5 ritual requires pretty powerful blood mage or a mage with boosters, which is actually quite easy to access. This stands up a citadel, not even a fortress, a citadel, which it puts up a citadel in a province, a friendly province, on the next turn. So you can raid a province and immediately cast 3 red seconds. It does this remotely, by the way. So you can do this from 4 provinces away. I was casting 3 red seconds with my god from Sodorth down to Larian Swamps. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's right. I cast from, yeah, Sodorth to Larian Swamps. So I don't, it normally would take you, God, 10 plus turns to stand up a citadel, and most nations don't even have access to a citadel. A citadel is the highest administrative fortress that you can have in the game. The second thing we'll cover is Blood Vortex. Now, I don't know if this was changed with Dominion's Enhanced, but this requires Blood 7 to cast, which was actually kind of tough for me to pull off with the stuff that I was doing with my god. And also, so Blood Vortex gives you a massive boost in your blood economy. It basically pulls in people, it draws people into a Blood Vortex and generates a certain number of blood slaves per turn at a cost of reducing the population in the surrounding provinces, as well as provinces from far away. It's very risky. You can have your mages fall into the Blood Vortex, so if you cast it in a province with a fort, you can sometimes lose mages to it. That being said, just the raw income of having blood slaves per turn is really beneficial. So, all right, I'm gonna go through some Dominion's enhanced spells that I thought were really cool, and ones that I'll just ones that I did not think were worth it or even remotely interesting at all. The first one that I thought was really cool was in the Conjuration tree, and it's Conjuration 6. This is a nature and earth spell. This was Summon Pride of Legends, and I thought this one was really cool because it required nature 5, earth 1, so it's perfect for an Acrobelts to cast, and it summons 8 Kithrionic lions. Normally you can only summon these at 1 per turn. The fact that you can summon 8 at a time at a cost of 15 nature gems, you're always kind of in a surplus of nature gems, especially if you're uncontested for global enchantments. You can cast Mother Oaks pretty early. You start getting that nature economy going. Those were awesome. I really liked that, and I'll probably do that again. And combining that, I didn't really get to test this as much as I would like, but combining that with a Dominion's enhanced item called the Staff of Gaia allowed me to create a kind of a unique or more interesting army composition with animals that I don't think is really as available in the base game in vanilla. So I really liked that there was kind of this alternate path in nature to focus on animal summoning and buffing animals. I thought it opened up the game in a really interesting way, and this particular spell was very powerful. Uh, let's talk about Bind Storm Demons. We already kind of talked that to death, but the Akalar and Bind Storm Demons was ridiculously effective, and I'll go into a little bit more depth about why. Um, the first thing that you had to do was hold Akalar, which was it costs 50 blood slaves to cast. It gives you a single month to cast certain ritual spells at a province of your choosing. Requires a lot of setup, and there's a floor, right? So you want to make use of that to the best of your abilities. I think I only cast this twice. I cast this twice during the game, but it did allow us to, at Blood 7, cast Gathering of Storm Demons. And as I've already talked about, this is a very cost-effective way to get Storm Demons, but more importantly, it gives you access to massing Storm Demons earlier on in the research process. And I think that's the important point. Your vanilla game, the way that you would mass Storm Demons is you would go into Blood 9 and you would spend 5 or 6 late game turns researching Infernal Tempest. And this is an awesome spell, and I've used this in the past, but Gathering of Storm Demons was very cost effective. So really liked that. I thought that worked really well. I did think it was a little finicky trying to do the math of like, okay, when is it going to be most cost effective for me to hold Akalar and get kind of the most Storm Demons, bang for my buck. But all right, let's talk about some other ones. A few other like lesser things. I played around with Distilled Blood Vial because I was like, oh, it'd be nice to have temporary gems in Blood Magic, but this was not worth it at all. It's just not like 7 blood slaves to make a single like temporary gem per combat. You have to use this 7 times just for it to work itself out. More importantly, you're losing a mage turn to make this, which is it's just not worth it at all. So that I think this needs to be changed. I would say like grants a maybe it needs to grant more temporary gems. I don't know. This was really bad. So Haraspell, Traverse the Haraspell. I thought this was an interesting new teleport spell. So you can stay in a Haraspell, which creates a site that allows you to use blood magic to teleport mages from one Haraspell to another. It's a point on the map, which I do think is kind of cool. I don't know what needs to be done to make this more accessible. It's a little expensive for what it is. Like when you already have what is it? Hellride. Like you already have Hellride. If I was really in a hurry to get mages somewhere, I would just use Hellride. I mean, I could get 5 Ackerbelts to a province with Hellride. Wait, can Ackerbelts use Hellride? Oh no, Ackerbelts cannot use Hellride. Right? Let's see, what size are they? Yes, Ackerbells cannot use Hellride. Either way, I did not think the Stained Hair spell was that interesting. I set it up here, here. Maybe if you're playing with a bigger map, I think I started to put one in Jome. Did I put one in Jome? I never even put one in Jome. Whatever. Hair spell was not that interesting. That's the Dominion's enhanced spell. Transfiguration we already talked about. Don't do it. Just don't do it. I talked to some people in the Dominion's Lucid's Discord, and I totally agreed with it. I did test it out and see if like anything had changed in Dominion's Enhanced. It's still just terrible. Call of the Wind. If you were doing any blood hunting, this is an absolute banger of a spell. I'll show you an actual tree. It is an Air 3 spell, Call of the Winds. Don't ever use this for combat. If you're using this for combat, you're pretty desperate. It's a very expensive. It's 8 air gems to cast this. They're not good in combat. This is strictly for patrolling. The great thing about the Hawks is that they can fly so far. Like, look at how far they can fly. You know, they can get to any province in your interior where you need patrol. Especially if you're playing Turmoil, having good interior patrol is so critical. Teleports, I'll talk about teleports for a second just because some people might not be aware of this. Blood magic, let's do blood. You have access to a variety of teleports. You've got Hell Ride, you've got the Hair Spell, which we've already covered. In the, gosh, which is it? Is it Evocation? Air has access to Cloud Trapeze, which is kind of similar. It's you get a air mage to travel to a specific point. I think the most well-known spell is literally teleport in the Thaumaturgy. So teleport comes at Thaumaturgy 4. This allows an astral mage to teleport themselves to any friendly province. Then you get some more powerful versions of this. You can create gateways, which allow you to teleport an entire army. So the mage plus all of their units. And then I think that there's even better ones. I've never really played that far into the Thaumaturgy tree. I really do want to go deep into Thaumaturgy because, and I was experimenting with Rely for another game, but I haven't gotten there yet. The really interesting stuff is like Nexus Gate, which allows you to travel to the Nexus, which is super cool. Yeah, I won't go, since I don't know that much about teleporting in the Thaumaturgy tree, I won't go any further than that. Okay, I want to talk about site searching and remote site searching and why you would do remote site searching versus just sending out a mage. Let's see. I think it's evocation. Is that right? No, it is conjuration. Yes. Okay. So remote site searching. So your typical site searching is you send a mage to a province, you walk them there, and then you search the site with the mage, and they may or may not find a site. Dominions Enhance has a nice feature where it tells you if you are a nature mage, let's say you're a nature mage path 1, and you search it, you don't find anything. Dominions Enhance will tell you in your notifications that, hey, there's actually a more powerful site here that a stronger nature mage could find. And that's a really nice feature that you can kind of exploit a little bit, right? Like you can get a really, really cheap mage that has, 2 or maybe even 3 paths and walk them around and search for sites and then identify, oh, hey, there's actually a more powerful site here. Once you have a more powerful site, like once you identify that more powerful site, you can use remote site searching to search a site at a strength of 9. And specifically, what I was about to show you, and I was kind of losing my train of thought, was there's remote site searching options for every single type of magic: nature, death, fire, air. You just need to figure out what that spell is. But more importantly, if you are an astral mage and you have a surplus of astral gems, you can cast Kashik Knowledge. And what this does is it searches an entire friendly province with 9s across the board. So you can see, if I look at Jome here, a level 9 fire mage has searched for magic sites in this province, a level 9 water mage, all across the board. That is so cost effective. Like it saves you the time of walking there with individual mages. It's a very, very expensive spell, but I mean, 18 astral gems is a massive investment. So I think I cast like 5 or 6 times this game, but almost every time it found a site. And I already had a pretty decent income of astral pearls, so this is a great spell, and I would really draw your attention to this spell. If you're in astral, this is something worth considering. All right, that's kind of it for remote site searching. Items we've kind of covered. Boosters. If you're a new player and you're asking yourself, how do I how do I get to Astral 4, Nature 3? Like, I only have Astral 2 and Nature 2. The answer is boosters. You can also empower mages, but usually people will craft boosters. Booster items are, let's see if we can pull up some examples. This is a really common booster item for blood magic. This is the Bloodthorn. It gives you +1 blood magic to the mage that wields it. Doesn't matter what the weapon stats are. You should never be using this for weapon stats. It's literally just to boost the magic paths. And the nice thing is you can, give these to other mages. So here's a fire booster. And it looks like all my other boosters are assigned. The Staff of Gaia was a Dominion's enhanced item. This gave, where was this item? It's on Ortal. I thought this was really cool. It was a start of battle spell. I always like items with start of battle spells because it just, it's easy to like throw on somebody and try it out. Grants strength +4 to all the lions. So I thought this was really cool. Anyways, I'm going to continue testing with animals and try to do some more like druidic, like nature magic in future games. Azure Amulets is what I used. This is a Dominion's enhanced feature. These items give 75 size points, which is roughly 10, 12 human-sized units, water breathing, and then it casts permanent water breathing on anyone that enters the province. This only gets cast if you go into an underwater province, so keep that in mind. But it's a very cheap item to craft, right? Like it's 3 water gems, so it's very cost effective. Vials of blood, yes. And this gave me just a flat 400 gold per month at a total cost of 10 earth gems. Like, what? I remember getting that and just being like, I thought I was going to mass produce this. I actually had never played with this item before because I've frankly never gotten to Construction 9. I've never played a nation that plays for Construction. I usually stop at Construction 7 because there's so many other more powerful things I can do with, Magic 9 in other schools. So, anyways, with that, I'm going to kind of stop on there. All right, let's talk about takeaways, and this is just kind of the closing thoughts of the whole series. Dominion candles, the candles in province wins games. And if we look at temple, we had 9 temples, converted provinces. We had 39 total provinces in our dominion. Our dominion strength ended at 7. Chance of successful dominion spread was 85% per turn. Having provinces in your dominion ensures that you are getting so many different benefits, and it's kind of easy to forget because you get locked into these territory wars where you're like, I just need to take Anglavania, or I need Blue Moss Forest, and you don't really take into consideration like what it means to be attacking into a province with 6 enemy dominion candles. So there's a lot of benefits, there's a lot of buffs to your armies that you get from being within your own dominion, so just keep that in mind. The second thing is the map gen on the vanilla version of the game is just very random. And I have already started another series where I'm on the kind of the receiving end of poor map gen. And I do feel bad for my opponent. I don't feel bad for him. I mean, he's, like I said, he's a very good sport, but like this is brutal. And it's honestly impressive that he was able to kind of battle through that and, get to a point where he had stabilized a bit. I think if I had played this differently, I would say the biggest mistake was going all the way around rather than just fighting Ermor right away. One thing I do know about fighting undead provinces is like you want to take them off the map as soon as possible because they're gonna kill the population, and if you don't take them out early, those provinces are then worth nothing, and so it becomes this like I don't know, Taiwan situation where it's like, okay, if you don't deal with them early, then it's just not worth it to deal with it, so it's like That's probably the decision-making process he went through is like, oh, Pangea's lands are more accessible to me, and therefore, like, I think I should, come up through Pangea right here. And that's what he did. He came up through Scythia and he moved south. But by that time, he's so far from his capital. And I know that he was really leaning on his sacreds quite a lot with the regeneration buff. Um, so yeah, I think that was a mistake, was not dealing with more early, and then really kind of trying to grow from here, expand out, and producing lots of scouts to figure that out early. But that's not what I was talking about. As I said, it's not my opponent's fault. It really was this horrible map gen for Abyssia, who's spawns underground, and then he obviously has this throne right here, Throne of Law, Dominion spread, Dominion gets order +1. That's not even that good, you know. Iron deposit produces 60 mines. That's pretty good. I mean, this is a terrible capital. Like, what did that have? Income? Oh my gosh. He had no resources the whole game. So, pretty bad. Nothing really to learn there other than if you want to play a fair and balanced game, it's going to be a boring game. I do actually really like the randomness of Dominions. I think it makes for interesting space where there's not a right decision 100% of the time, and you have to kind of play around the circumstances. In larger human games, like you have to play the Diplo game. Um, you have to be civil with your opponents so that you can kind of work out what is um, who is pulling ahead. The diplomacy matters. But all right, the second thing that I wanted to just call out, and I think that this was a big win, was just playing for the objectives. Like once I realized, I'm like, I just don't care what Machaka does at this point because money is no longer the constraining factor for me to win the game. I should have won it on turn 60, but playing the objective means understanding I need three thrones. I need three tier 2 thrones to win the game. Yes, it's very nice to get a throne like what I got on Vokan, and I got a bunch of really sweet loot for that, but once I took Vokan, I realized I was already holding position in Jome and Sodorth, which meant I was just afraid to go underwater to take Monster's Depth, and all I needed was one more province in Larian Swamps. And I actually took this much faster than I was anticipating because Storm Demons are flying units, Sorginas are flying units. Pyrene is so mobile that like I would have been able to take this as I projected on turn 60 if I just hadn't drowned my god in Monster's Death. So, all right, that's play the objective. Already talked about this quite a bit. If you are new, do not start multiple wars. Try to avoid that at all costs. You may even send AI players non-aggression pact requests. You'll lose dominions if they decline it, but it doesn't really matter. You really don't want to get locked into fighting multiple people at the same time because if you don't close it out, you run into situations like this where you're just going to have someone push back out and take back provinces. So you really need to think critically about what you can both take and hold in terms of territory. And then the last thing I'll leave you with is get your mages out site searching as soon as possible. Get a good, diverse mage out site searching, especially if you're playing with the Dominions Enhanced mod, because you're going to get those notifications that, hey, there's a more powerful site here. So figure out where those more powerful sites are, and then get your gem income going, and then get your research going. Because if you research to something like, if you research to something like Gathering of Storm Demons, actually, let's use Conjuration as an example. If you research for Summon Pride of Legend, and you're only producing 2 or 3 nature gems per turn, you can't do anything with that. That doesn't benefit you. So you need to really have you need to balance both the economy of the gem income or province income with the magic path research to achieve that. So try to go and identify, what do I really want to do? I want to summon a Heliophagus, or I want to use Summon Pride of Legends this game, and then focus on getting out those magic path, the associating magic path uh, mages to go find those sites early. I think that's it. This series has been Skullclamp. We were on Pyrene. This is Middle Age, and I'm closing this one out. Thank you so much if you left a comment or provided any feedback to me. You can find me on all of the Dominions Discords as Chillery Blinton. So feel free to drop me a message. I'd love to chat with you about what I could have done better here, or just mechanical details that are so easy to miss in this game. This game is so complex, and that's really what is enticing about it, is the further you go down the rabbit hole, the more you want to learn. So I hope this has been helpful. If you're a new player, stay with the game. All of the systems are so interdependent on one another that you really have to kind of take your time to understand why something is a certain way. That's it. Take care.